We're going inside the mind of a modern entrepreneur. We're going to introduce my good friend and one of my real estate advisors, Mr. Julian DeMonico. And Julian, can you introduce yourself? Let everybody know how amazing you are.
Thanks, Crystal. Thanks, Lauren, for having me. I'm really grateful to be here. I have been in real estate for 4 years, and I recently expanded my business over to New York City. And so I have been going between New York and Philadelphia, growing regionally in order to see what I'm made of, hone my entrepreneurial chops, and spread my wings after being in Philadelphia for 18 years and having a wonderful time growing and learning from the amazing leadership that is in the city. So I'm very excited to talk about entrepreneurship, business, inspirational ideas, and anything else that you all want to discuss. My background was originally nonprofits and advocacy, and I take that type of advocate spirit to my work because I have always identified as somebody who wants to make the lives of people around me better than I found them. And real estate has kind of scratched that itch where I have been able to impact families and communities in a positive way by being honest, transparent, ethical, while also giving a better ROI for my time as I mature and grow into new spaces where I want to invest or expand my horizons or be involved in the political process. Real estate has done a lot to build me into a more well-rounded person while still thinking about how I can be supportive of those around me. Admittedly, I did not grow up with a great deal of understanding around business or financial literacy. I grew up across the street from a steel factory in Metro Detroit, and I came to Philadelphia when I was 18 to go to college. I quickly learned that those around me who had a lot more privilege and understanding of how money comes and goes and how one cultivates, keeps it, had a leg up on me, and I did not understand why that was at that young age. So what I decided to do beginning at 25 was do one-on-ones with people of all different industries and types to better understand their strengths, their opportunities, their vision for their lives, and what is keeping them in positions of power, positions of success, or what's, sometimes actually allowing them to fall out of those positions of power and positions of success. I remember my first one-on-one was with a dog park cleaner because I was the only person who would take my meeting because I had nothing to offer. At least that's how people thought at the time. And by navigating Philadelphia very intentionally, I had a barista job on the weekends. I was, scrimping and saving my little tips to try to build some savings in order to be able to do the next thing or the next idea. And that place was where I got to talk to lots of people who are coming and going every week, start to build relationships with the consumers. And I started taking those people out to one-on-ones. And one of the individuals that I took out, she ended up running for office in 2018 as committee person for our neighborhood, representing 13th Street to 10th Street, Walnut to Spruce. And 3 months after she had run, she reached out to me and said, "Hey, I need someone to join me as my co-committee person. Would you want to get into politics with me?" And that started my political journey in Philadelphia. That initial meeting really changed my life because from that point forward, I would go to political events, get engaged with the leadership community, the advocacy community more deeply, but then also on a higher level. I was at a political event one day and I was spotted by a model scout and I was signed in Philadelphia and New York soon after. That process got me to meet more people where I would do one-on-ones. I met my real estate business partner for investments in a runway fashion line that we were both walking together. We bought a triplex in Point Breeze in 2020 when the world shut down and things were chaotic and I didn't know anything about real estate or business, or really I was just a budding entrepreneur with a lot of drive and a lot of big dreams, but not a lot of cash and not a clear vision, which is perfectly fine when you're just starting out. We converted that triplex into a quadruplex after 2 years. I decided, you know what, I think I can do real estate from the sales side even better than the people around me. So that is what pushed me to get my real estate license to basically manage my own investments and then turn into helping other people. So all that to say is if you put yourself in the right positions and intentionally move with both grace and humbleness, lots of people, especially when you're younger, want to invest in you, support you, and teach you how to maintain money, how to build wealth. And I think real estate is one of the best vehicles to do so. Thank you for the question, Lauren. If someone is just starting and feels behind, what would I tell them? I would tell them that imposter syndrome is not something that is meant to hold you back. It's something that's meant to show you that something matters to you, and it's an opportunity to level up. We can always look to the person ahead of us, and if we are comparing ourselves to them, think, I am not good enough, I do not have enough resources, I have not had the same level of education, people have not poured into me in the same ways. But when we think in those negative terms, we are immediately cutting ourselves down and holding ourselves back from looking at what do we have as our strengths? What are the opportunities that are in front of us that we may not be paying attention to? What differentiates us and our abilities or our way of thinking or our way of navigating the world that could put us in a new light or that attracts somebody through our own type of magnetism to make something new happen. So I would say if you feel like you're left behind, that's okay, and you should honor and validate those emotions, but you should also let them pass and just take a small action towards a goal. I always say that when you have a whale-sized problem, all you can do is take one bite out of that problem in order to move forward, to not overwhelm yourself and to be able to just keep moving. When people settle or find themselves not meeting their goals or letting go of their dreams, it's simply because they stop moving. And usually it's because they've given themselves a narrative in their mind that they are not worthy or incapable, which is not true. Most of the people that I find myself surrounded by in these fancy rooms and boardrooms and, $1 million homes, et cetera, et cetera, a majority of them have come from extreme places of privilege and wealth or have had people pour into them from very, very young ages. Just because you do not have that like someone else does not mean that you are not capable of being in those same rooms. It just means that you have to be a little bit more entrepreneurial, a little bit more of a hustler, a little bit more confident in your own abilities, because what gets you into those rooms is the confidence and then the competence to keep providing value to those around you while also respecting yourself and, what those people do bring to the table, whether it is resources, intelligence, or their own version of hard work. And I will say, just because you start at a place that is a bit more challenging, it doesn't mean that you are any less valuable. It means that you have the ability to use your own perspective and where you came from to inform your work to then potentially move yourself forward. And I've found that the people who start from those places usually have a lot more hustle in them, can get a lot farther and bring interesting and out of the box thinking because of what they've experienced and what they've navigated throughout their life. What belief about myself had to change before my business really grew? Sometimes when one takes a risk or goes out on a limb and does something that either your family doesn't necessarily support, your community doesn't necessarily understand, you're going outside, especially as an entrepreneur, the 9-to-5 kind of stability and safety that's sold to us, you can feel a bit unmoored and scared because there's not as many people to maybe look to in your immediate vicinity to make a decision on how to move into the vision of yourself that you're seeking. I think what I had to change before my business really grew is to not feel ashamed about being an entrepreneur, to not feel like I am less than if I'm not making a lot of money really quickly, or I'm not able to go on those trips that Crystal had mentioned, or do the things that maybe my peers were able to do because they had a stable income. But what I have always envisioned for my life is not a bunch of money or wealth. It's about time freedom to come and go as I please and be who I want when I want to be that person. And also connection, meeting people where they're at, getting to learn and understand, because about different industries and different types of people. I'm a very curious mind. My background was psychology in college. And so I think I really had to focus on, okay, I am not going to feel shame. I'm not going to feel guilt. I'm going to have this belief in myself that I am going to find my own flow and my own rhythm for my business. I'm not going to copy other people. I will collaborate with them. The pie is full. I don't have a scarcity mindset, so I can live in abundance. And if I have less than or more, then I can share if I have more. And if other people want to share with me, then I accept that with graciousness and not from a place of lack. And once I got out of my own way and made decisions that were aligned with who I want to become, and that vision is constantly changing because I'm continually learning new things, and as Lauren said, trying to grow constantly in all facets, personally and professionally, I really started to see a lot of business success because there was a magneticism that came from being true to yourself and aligning with your own interests and your own beliefs. What I find often when I talk to friends, family, clients, et cetera, community members, is that a lot of people do things that they don't really want to do, and they fake it and they fake it and they fake it, and then one year they just explode. The relationship explodes, the business burnout happens, the misery kind of gets ingrained in their life, and then not only are they not chasing their best vision for themselves, but they have nothing to offer other people. And so that's really what I have focused on, is always aligning with my intuition and my realist goals. Even if it doesn't make sense to the people around me, I'll admit, I love my mom very much and we have a very great relationship. But when I told her that I was going to be an entrepreneur and I was going to go into real estate, she just told me to get a 9-to-5 job. But I had to reflect and think, okay, my mother immigrated to this country. My whole family did. I'm the first person born in the United States. And she has always been financially insecure growing up. So for her, the idea of entrepreneurship was destabilizing. It was riddled with anxiety. And she wanted the best for me. And she thought the best for me would be to have something that's stable, consistent, and simple. But I am not someone who seeks out stable and simple. I'm somebody who builds new things and attracts other collaborators to participate with me. And I think that's really what has pushed me to have my business grow. It's accepting that I am made for something different. That is okay. It's going to look different, but I'm going to be happy on the journey of discovery. Thanks for the question, Crystal. So when did I realize my business was about trust and relationships and not just selling homes? So I will admit, I went into real estate because of the power of relationships. And I understood that from politics and how I navigated and moved around municipal government. I was chairperson of Mayor Jim Kenney's Millennial Advisory Committee. And I had a team of, so I was the chair, I had a co-chair, a treasurer, secretary, 9 directors, and 8 deputies. And I managed the workflow and relationships in that organization to connect city government to Philadelphia, particularly millennials and younger people, Gen Z and younger. And so politics really showed me how important healthy, communicative, honest relationships were. So when I went to real estate, it wasn't as simply as like, oh, I'm going to find you a home or an asset. I understand from the financial literacy perspective that a lot of people are approaching me because of my acumen to understand how do we leverage debt or a mortgage? How do we have to save enough? How do we build enough equity in our home in order to then move on to the next asset, or equity in our property rather, if you're an investor? So I intentionally came here with a different perspective and by here I mean the real estate industry, because I knew that a lot of my colleagues were focused on the dollar signs and were moving from transaction to transaction with a reckless abandon because they just wanted to, create more for themselves. And my view has always been, how do I impact someone or the community in a better way? And that has always been around having a healthy communicative style, a very ethical perspective where even if you don't want to hear what I have to share, I need to share it with you because it's in your best interest to make an informed decision that's going to impact one of the largest financial situations that you're going to put yourself into in your entire life. And so by focusing on the relationships, I get an immense number of referrals from past clients, from agents that are younger than myself, agents that are older than myself. My first listing in New York is at 58th and 6th, one block south of Central Park. And that's from a Philadelphia agent and a Philadelphia seller who's letting go of parts of her New York portfolio. And this is all because I went out to coffee with that particular agent. She advocated very aggressively for me. Although I had only been in New York at that time for a month and a half, she told her client, who trusts her very deeply, Julian can sell anything that you need, and I would choose him over an experienced broker in New York. And so that's how I got my first listing for a multi-million-dollar condo. It's really, really important to remind yourself that your reputation precedes you. And even if you don't get an immediate return on a networking event like Lauren mentioned, but instead you are showing up, being present, being professional, being kind, being generous, those things build up over time, almost in like a karma type of way. And it will come back to you. I have no idea when. I am never doing anything because I expect something to come back to me. But because you are just there being a good person and a good professional, because you're competent and you've built your skills, like Crystal mentioned, things happen in mysterious ways and things will manifest, but you have to be consistent and you can't get discouraged when you don't get an immediate return. And that's probably one of the biggest things I could share here. Things don't happen on your timeline. They happen on the timeline that's meant for it to happen to you. I completely agree. And I just wanted to say that woman who gave me this client in New York as my first listing, I had coffee with her 4 years ago, one time. And we've never worked together on anything. But as Crystal mentioned, she has been watching my business grow. She's been paying attention from behind the scenes. She's been saying my name positively in rooms that I'm not even in and with people that I don't know. And that's why these things are happening currently. I would never have even picked her as someone to give me an opportunity because she never has before. But once she saw like, oh, he's leveling up, he's ready for this, now I'm going to invest in him. And and she's a 70-year-old black woman from the South, and her parents were civil rights activists who just passed. And I'm extremely grateful for that connection to like deep work that has impacted people of color for years in this country to then find me and give me an opportunity at the very beginning of my New York career.
I love that. In honor of Black History Month, we give them honor, and I thank her for giving you that opportunity.
Entrepreneurship and leadership are not for the faint of heart. Because you are not working a 9-to-5 and getting a stable paycheck every 2 weeks or every month, you have to really think outside of the box. And I think like going back to something that Crystal had mentioned, we see the successes on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, elsewhere. We see the shiny cars, the luxury trips, the great relationships, the things that everyone wants to share with us. But what that really is marketing. What people don't see are the tears, the hard work, the late nights. I have regularly been in my office in New York and my office in Philadelphia, 1:30 in the morning, 2 in the morning, still finishing marketing because I couldn't afford an assistant. I couldn't afford people to delegate work to because my business was growing. But because I was so impassioned and so excited to okay, what if I put myself out here in this way? Or what if I market in this new way? Or what if I build this type of collateral for my socials or for digital or for envision this? Or what if I do this type of price strategy or analyses, et cetera? People don't understand that what they see online is a tip of the iceberg of what it actually takes to be badass. And everyone can be that person, but you have to be willing to put in the work that is not glamorous, that is not exciting, that is focused on discipline and consistency and a passion for building something new for yourself. But also what I have found motivates me and motivates people longer is for when you build something for others. And so it's really, really important that people don't think that they can just have a good idea and then all of a sudden life just, falls in their lap and things become perfect. There's no such thing as perfection. And I always say that you should not let the idea of perfection get in the way of something that's great or good enough, because it's all about continuing the movement and the upward trajectory of trying again, failing. And there is so much failing in entrepreneurship. Of all the millions of dollars of real estate that I've sold, I've also lost millions more. And ultimately, I don't focus on what I lose. I focus on what it is that I have gained and learned through the really intense hard work that is going on behind the scenes. And that hard work can be practicing public speaking. That hard work can be practicing my financial math analyses. That could be practicing my marketing design or digital video editing. If I am building a business where I just hired a partner in Philadelphia in December. And so I'm finally testing out what it feels like to delegate work. There's something that popped up on social media that had talked about entrepreneurship that said, your attachment style will show based on how you behave when your clients disappear. Your scarcity mindset will show based on how you price things, and your control issues will show based on your inability to delegate. And that really stuck with me as something that I needed to learn how to do, because if I want to be the CEO of my own vision and my own empire, whatever that looks like in the future, I need to make sure that I am able to do everything in my business on my own, and then be able to break it down in ways that can be easily trained and able to be delegated to other people so that they can have the information to create their best work in the lens of what we collaborate and build together. I think people need to always remember that nothing happens overnight. That is okay. And if they just maintain the consistency, they will, as my fourth grade teacher used to say, practice makes improvement. And you will improve over time. You just have to keep going. What's something no one warns entrepreneurs about? I guess this is not a sexy answer, but it's a practical answer that I learned the hard way. As we've discussed, you want to move with intention. And Lauren just mentioned you want to be able to pivot when necessary when you're in an entrepreneurial role. You should have some savings when you go into an entrepreneurial pursuit. Like, I really respect that Crystal is working as a banker in order to both, have the stable income, but also envision and put in the time and effort to build her business, build her nonprofit, build her vision for impacting people positively regarding financial literacy. I came to real estate on unemployment, and it was a very stressful time because I had lost my nonprofit job. I was in the midst of renovating that triplex into a quadruplex, and I basically had to demand my brokerage in Philadelphia give me a job somewhere, something with somebody so that I could stick in real estate. And how I started was I worked as an assistant, as a marketing assistant and executive assistant to a high grossing team based out of Rittenhouse Square and the brokerage that I had started with. And I would not join the team because it did not fit my goals. So I would work from 9 to 5 as an assistant to a major team leader and about 15 agents. And then after 5 o'clock and nights and weekends, I'd run my own business. And I did that for 7 months straight because my unemployment had run out and I couldn't survive financially. And that not only reminded me of my own grit and resilience, but it also focused me in on my own goals of I do not want to be behind anyone else's brand anymore. I've done that since I was in my early 20s working for very successful people and very impressive people in their own right. But when I went to real estate at 31, 32, I had decided that that was no longer a place for me. I am not for behind the scenes, and I'm not going to live on the agenda or vision of someone else. I wish I had known that I should have a lot more savings when going into it, or that I should have had a small job with flexibility going in. I'm very grateful that my brokerage saw something in me and connected me to that opportunity, and I'm still very good friends with that team leader to this day. But it really showed me that I needed to be very thoughtful with my money, with my credit, with my savings, because I never knew when a deal was going to come. And I went out on my own in October 2022, and I've been an individual agent since that point. And that was probably the worst time of the market in this contemporary context when rates were rising. We were still kind of shaking off COVID. Prices were not up and up and up any longer, because capital had become more expensive due to, the socio-political economics at the time. I was told by everyone around me that this is a bad idea. You should not leave this team leader. You should stick there and keep your head down and be grateful for the opportunity. And I said no. I said I would rather make less money and struggle on my own to build something in my own image and then bring people into my life and my business that align with that image than be behind someone else any longer for the easy money. And that's something that I would share, that you should try to have some type of savings or be in some type of role that you don't hate so that you can focus on your entrepreneurial goals as best as possible and have like the emotional and financial bandwidth to stick it out even when things get hard. What daily discipline separates dreamers from builders? The main driver or difference is the action-oriented steps. I think there's always a place to dream, and there's always a place to think about best case scenario, which is a great skill to have because some people don't do that. They think of the worst case scenario. But you also have to put action and a plan to the dream if you want it to come to fruition. I think oftentimes young people, adults, whoever, look at their favorite celebrity, they look at their favorite entrepreneur, their favorite sports person, and they think, wow, I wonder how they did that. And a lot of times the simplest thing is that that person just kept doing the thing that they like to do repeatedly for years. And you didn't hear them or see them until they were at the top of their industry or, getting interviews for this and for that. I always think that you should have optimism and confidence in yourself, like what I'm hearing both Crystal and Lauren have, including in myself. But you need to put some type of rubber to the road in order to move it forward. And you might have this long-term dream, but the learning and the growth comes along the journey. And that dream or business or whatever idea might evolve over time as you build more skills, learn more things, meet more interesting people, more doors might open. So it's always great to dream and to fantasize, but you have to get yourself out of fantasy mode and into doing mode. And when you start doing things, even if they don't feel like there's a through line of continuity, as long as you are learning and connecting with new people, that is what's going to turn your life into something that you can not fathom. I'll admit I never wanted to work in New York or necessarily live there. I've really enjoyed being in Philadelphia for 18 years. I've never expected myself to come to Philadelphia. I really enjoyed living in the Midwest and coming from the Detroit metro area. But because I had a dream of something bigger and because I accepted in myself that I wasn't like the people around me, I have continually sought out new spaces, new ideas, new people to try to push myself to get beyond my comfort zone and get beyond my dream and into a new reality.
I love it.
I just want to say thank you so much, Crystal. Thank you so much, Lauren. I really enjoyed talking, sharing ideas with both of you and hearing pieces of your story as well. Entrepreneurial pursuit is a contact sport. It is not for the faint of heart, but it can be really rewarding in how it builds your own mind and allows you to employ your own skill set and passion to help other people and solve problems. You can follow me at Julian DeMonico, JULIAN_DeMonico, DOMANICO. I have Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Additionally, something that I have been focused on for 2026 is to discuss architecture and history in Philadelphia and New York, the similarities and differences, in order to employ a passion of mine of history and architecture into my business to provide something different to people that most people kind of overlook. So if you like architecture and history, if you like funny videos about real estate, or if you like seeing multi-million-dollar homes, interiors, give me a follow and I will happily keep you entertained.